Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you can see the video. It's of course always delayed a little bit, but hopefully you can see it. So we're going to continue where we left off. Um, yeah, so we had to stop obviously the last video because of the technical issues we were having with the connection, but hopefully we'll be able to see it this time. So welcome back. Thank you all for being so patient. Appreciate that. We're going to continue so we're doing Revelation chapter 4, and we talked about the book being the book of life. We talked about um, going back to Moses about the book and the importance of the book of life, and that's what we are dealing with beginning in Revelation chapter 4. Now, let's look first back on Revelation chapter 3, where we looked at when we talked about the sixth church, Philadelphia. Now, again, everything in the book of Revelation is in the prophets. For example, even the 144,000 are in the prophets. They're just not numbered in the prophets. For example, when it says in Malachi that I'm going to send you Elijah the prophet before the great and terrible day of Yahweh come, and it's talking about the earth being burned and people being redeemed and growing up as calves in the stall. That's the Elijah the prophet is the 144,000. See, and he says, "Remember ye the law of Moses, my servant," which is the two witnesses, Moses and Elijah, representing the two tables of stone, which is the tabernacle of witness. All of that we talked about Wednesday night. But that's the 144,000. And there's several mentions of them in the Old Testament, just not by number. When you get to the book of Revelation, they're mentioned by number. And so everything in the book of Revelation is in the prophets. Now, that includes the Church of Philadelphia. And again, the Bible uses symbolism oftentimes to reference end time reality. And I'll show you what I mean when we look at this. So in Revelation chapter 3, we've already went through Philadelphia, but of course, because of the time we're living in, the sixth church, the sixth trumpet, the sixth seal are very relevant because they're representing where we are right now. Okay. And so here in the sixth church, Philadelphia, I want to show you verse 7 and 8. Okay. Revelation chapter 3, verse 7 and 8, the beginning of the Philadelphia church, the sixth church. "And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, These things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name." So I want to compare that to what Messiah said about himself in Revelation chapter 1. Revelation chapter 1. Where am I going to start here? I'm going to start at verse. I want verse 18, but I'm going to start at verse 16, and I'm going to go to verse 18. Revelation chapter 1, 16 to 18. "And he had in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp 2-edged sword, and his countenance was as the sun shineth in his strength. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead. And he laid his right hand upon me, saying unto me, Fear not, I am the first and the last. I am he that liveth and was dead. And behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And have the keys of hell and of death." So here in the sixth church, he says he has the key of David. He has the key of David, and he has the key of hell and death. Now that is also in the prophets. So let's take a look at the prophetic utterance that matches this in Isaiah chapter 22. Isaiah chapter 22. Now, in Isaiah 22, he's using an example of Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah. These were priests. And he's going to say the same words that we just saw in Revelation regarding these two men. And these two men are representative of the Father Yah and the Son Messiah. Okay. And you'll see what I mean when I show you this in Isaiah chapter 22. I'm going to read Isaiah chapter 22, starting at verse 20. And I'm going to read from verse 20 to the end, chapter 22, verse 25. So Isaiah chapter 22 from verse 20 to verse 25. Let's compare this to what we just read, okay? And it shall come to pass in that day that I will call my servant Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, and I will clothe him with thy robe and strengthen him with thy girdle. And I will commit thy government into his hand. Talking about Judah. I will commit thy government into his hand, and he shall be a father to the inhabitants of Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. And the key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulder. Didn't we just read that? Okay, he had the key of David. Where I lay upon his shoulder, and none, and he shall open, and none shall shut, and he shall shut, and none shall open. And I will fasten him as a nail in a sure place, and he shall be for a glorious throne to his father's house. And they shall hang upon him all the glory of his father's house, and the offspring, and the issue, all vessels of small quantity, from the vessels of cups, even to all the vessels of flagons. In that day, saith Yahweh of hosts, shall the nail that is fastened in a sure place be removed, and he shall be cut down and fall, and the burden that was upon it shall be put off. Yahweh have spoken it. So he talks about Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah. These are priests. And he says he's going to give the government to him, and he's going to have the key of David. And he opened and no man shut, and shut no man open. That means opening to the gates of the city of Jerusalem, which represent the kingdom. So I'm opening, he has the keys to open the kingdom or to shut the kingdom. Okay. And I'm putting the government on his shoulder. So then we just read that in Revelation about the Messiah. He has the key. He opens and no man shuts. He shuts and no man opens. That's the sixth church. That's when Messiah goes to the most holy place. And he does what? He opens the door into the most holy place. Okay. He has the keys of the kingdom. And this was example here in Isaiah 22. So again, it's an example. Eliakim and Hilkiah are an example of Father Yah and Messiah. Okay, that's done many times in the prophets, many times. There's, for example, the talk about the fall of Asatan out of the kingdom, heavenly courts, and he's using the name of the king of Tyrus to represent that in Ezekiel chapter 28. And there's a lot of similarities, things like that you'll see throughout the prophets. But in the book of Revelation, it's bringing it all to where it's really going to Father Yah and Messiah and the eternal kingdom of Israel, okay, led by Israel. So here, a door was opened. So now let's go to Revelation chapter 4, and let's see that. Revelation chapter 4. Revelation 4, beginning at verse 1. Revelation chapter 4, beginning at verse 1. After this, I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven. And the first voice was, which as I heard, was as it were of a trumpet talking with me, which said, come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. Again, I was pointing out before the trouble we had with the technology in the last section that we understand that the book of Revelation, the prophecy of Revelation, was given to Yochanan, the apostle called John, in the 1st century. Okay. All the things that he is being shown is after the 1st century. Well, includes the 1st century and then after. And here he says, I'm going to show you things that must be hereafter. That is after the 1st century. Okay. Now here we are, almost 2,000 years, or 1,900 years later, and these things have come to pass already. See, now from John's perspective, at that moment, they had not come to pass yet. But we who are alive after 1844, it's already come to pass. I see what I'm saying? So when it says, I'm going to show you things which must be hereafter, these are things that happened after 1844, 1700 years after John saw this. Okay, so I just want to give you that perspective so you understand where it's coming from. So now a door was opened in heaven. Now, what is that? That is the same door that was opened under Philadelphia. It is the door that divides the holy place from the most holy place, right? So we saw in chapter 1 the holy place where the 7 golden candlesticks are. Now we're going to be shown the most holy place. Now, I want to also explain this. There's a lot going on here. We know that the Bible tells us that Messiah sits at the right hand of the Father, that's his position at the right hand of the Father. Okay. But also there's a position Messiah has as a high priest. Okay. And as the high priest, there's a door that leads to the most holy place. And outside that door, we know there's an altar of incense, and there's 7 golden candlesticks, and there's a table of showbread with 12 loaves representing the 12 tribes. So Messiah as high priest ministers there until 1844. Now he's in the most holy and he's ministering there. So he's opening the door for us to see inside where only he would see, only the high priest would see. But he's showing us here in Revelation what he's seeing, okay, and what's going on. And now begins this process of him receiving the book of life, which represents his kingdom. Okay, so here in Revelation chapter 4, beginning at verse 2, notice what it said. And immediately, John says, I was in the spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. Now, that's obvious. And we saw it in Daniel chapter 7. That was what? The Ancient of Days. In fact, let's compare those two scriptures. Keep your finger there, and we'll look back now. Daniel 7, comparing the two scriptures. Again, the prophets all tell you the book of Revelation. Okay, they all tell you that, but you have to know where they are, right? So you go back and look at the prophets and you see what's happening here. In Daniel chapter 7, verse 9 and 10, right? Daniel 7, 9 and 10. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. See, the throne is in heaven. Ancient of Days did sit. He's sitting on his throne, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. And his throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. So there are wheels on his throne. Ezekiel also showed us that when he showed the 4 beasts. Remember, Ezekiel shows us that wheels. So the Father's throne moves. It can move. Okay. And he moves with the 4 beasts. But in a judgment scene, he is set in the most holy place. All right. And so Daniel shows his throne. He shows a fiery flame. He shows him sitting. He shows in verse 10, and the fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. 1,000 thousands ministered unto him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set and the books were open. Okay, now let's go back to Revelation. I know you're going back and forth, but y'all got to compare these things in order to see what's going on here. So now back to Revelation. He said the throne was set in heaven. Let's start at verse 3 of chapter 4. Revelation chapter 4, verse 3. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne in sight like unto an emerald. So he had sardine stone, jasper, emerald. And remember when we studied sardis, that stone is the first stone representing Reuben. So he has the different stones, the same color stones around him that represent the children of Israel. Okay, so he has the jasper stone, sardine stone, and then of course emerald. Okay, verse 4. And round about the throne were 24 seats, and upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold. So these are people redeemed from the earth, clothed in white raiment and crowns of gold. Okay, Revelation chapter 3, verse 5. Notice what it says, Revelation 3:5. He that overcometh, says, the same shall be clothed in white raiment. And I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. And remember, Paul said, when he said, I'm ready to be offered, there's laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the judge shall give me at that day. And not to me only, but he said, all them that love his appearing, 2 Timothy chapter 4. So you can see these are redeemed people that are around Father's throne. When would these people have come? Well, we know Elijah was taken up. We know Enoch was taken up. The Bible shows us Moses was resurrected. But there's more than just them. Who else did we see? Let's take a look. Keep your finger there. We've been here before, but we're going back. Matthew chapter 27. Matthew chapter 27. Matthew 27. We're going to start at verse 50. That's the ninth hour when Messiah died, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. From chapter 27, from verse 50 down to verse 53. Yahushua, when he had cried with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom. And the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. And watch verse 52. And the graves were open, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose and came out of the graves after his resurrection. So there were resurrection of saints, of Israelites, after Messiah was resurrected. And it says, and they went into the holy city, that is Jerusalem, and appeared unto many. So there was a resurrection of some saints after Messiah was resurrected. And to bear witness, they appeared to people. Okay, that's the first fruits. That represents Pentecost. That's the early rain and the first fruits of the harvest. That's the wave offering, if you will, that Messiah was representing also. So you see, between people that we know were resurrected, which is Moses, people we know were translated, which is Enoch and Elijah, and then saints that arose, which we don't know how many, and we don't know who they are. The Bible never tells us. Here they are around the throne, 24 elders. Now, also it's important to note that when David became king in Jerusalem, he organized the Levites in groups of 24 to minister the priest's office. Okay, that's how he did it. If you read First Chronicles, you'll see he organized the Levites and the children of Asaph, which was Levite, in orders of 24. Okay, that's why you got 24 elders here. Isn't that powerful? That's the Most High. See, so again, here we are with numbers. 24 is 12 times 2. Okay, 12 representing the children of Israel times 2. Yeah, 24 elders. It's a multiple of 12. Okay, so you have 24 elders around the throne of Yah. Okay, around his throne. Let's go back to Revelation chapter 4. Let's read that again from verse 4 down to verse 5. You're going to see a lot of similarities with Daniel that we already read. Okay. And round about the throne were 24 seats. And upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices. And there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of Yah. Remember, it said there was fiery streams. Daniel described fiery streams issuing from before him. There it is, the 7 spirits of Yah. Okay, 7, a complete number, a number of perfection. 7, okay, completion, perfection. And his spirit is complete and perfect. And it's representative of his perfect righteousness. Okay, 7, that's his righteousness. So his spirit can go everywhere at the same time. And let me just explain how deep that is as best that I can in my human frailty. When it says 7, he knows all, he sees all, and he's everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean he's in the past, and he's in the present, and he's in the future at the same time. He's still with, he can see clearly Adam. He can see clearly everything going on now. And he sees clearly what's going to happen all at the same time. In dimensions you and I cannot understand at this time. We'll begin to understand when we're resurrected and translated into the kingdom. But right now we cannot get it. Okay? This is how deep our Father is. And I'm only giving you a human, frail explanation of it. But that's why it's 7 spirits. He knows all from forever before to forever after. He is all. He is in all. He sees all. Okay? He dwells in dimensions we don't even understand. And I get all of that from this book. You see why I tell you, read your Bible? That you don't need all those other books? That the 66 books of this volume will give you more than you can handle? All Satan is trying to do with these other books is confuse you. You only need one. And if you focus on that one, he'll show you deeper things than I just revealed to you. Okay? Praise the Most High. So let's continue. Revelation chapter 4, beginning at verse 5 and reading verse 6. And out of the throne proceeding lightnings and thunders and voices. And there are 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of Yahweh. And before the throne was a sea of glass, like unto crystal. In the midst of the throne and round about the throne were 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. So let's stop here again. Wherever you see the sea of glass, from this point on, you will understand that the Father's throne is there, right? So when the saints are shown on a sea of glass, they're with the Father. Messiah is there too. And you will see it in a couple of other places in the book of Revelation. So when you see the sea of glass, that's why I said in Daniel, thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. So when you see the sea of glass, that's Father's throne is there. He says before his throne is a sea of glass. Okay. Then we saw 4 beasts. Right? For this, let's go to the prophet Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 1. Ezekiel chapter 1. And we'll see these same 4 beasts. Again, to the Father, what we read in Ezekiel, he still sees that. He's seeing Ezekiel. He sees them. It's like he knows that. It's like he's in their presence now from the past. He's with us here, and he's in the future with us. Okay, so Ezekiel chapter 1. Ezekiel calls them 4 living creatures. Okay, let's look at Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 5, beginning at verse 5. Ezekiel chapter 1, beginning at verse 5. And I'm not going to read all of it because we're going to see it in Revelation, but I'm going to read from verse 5 to verse... I'm going to start from verse 5 to verse 17. Okay, Ezekiel 1, 5 to 17. Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, and everyone had 4 faces, and everyone had 4 wings, and their feet were straight feet, and the soles of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. And they had the hands of a man under their wings on their 4 sides, and they 4 had their faces and their wings. Their wings were joined one to another, and they turned not when they went. They went every one straight forward. As for the likeness of their faces, they 4 had the face of a man and the face of a lion on the right side, and they 4 had the face of an ox on the left side, and they 4 had the face of an eagle. Thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched upward. 2 wings of every one were joined one to another, and 2 covered their bodies. And they went every one straight forward. Whither the Spirit was to go, they went. And they turned not when they went. As for the likeness of living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. And it went up and down among the living creatures. And the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. And the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. Now, as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creatures was with 4 faces. And the appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of a beryl. And they 4 had one likeness. Their appearance and their work was, as it were, a wheel in the middle of a wheel. And when they went upon their 4 sides, and they turned not when they went. I can't even begin to tell you that I understand what this looks like. It was just described, but I can't see it. I ain't gonna front. I mean, can you imagine? How can somebody have 4 faces? That's what it said, though. And one thing what I got from it, every time I read it, is that it can move, and that basically they're carrying Father's throne, and they can move, and they go everywhere the Spirit tells the Father, Spirit tells them to go. That's where they go. Okay, whether it's in the most holy place or outside of it, and they obviously flow in different places because we're going to see Father on the sea of glass. That's not in the most holy place. All right, so it's telling you a little bit what we're dealing with. Now, I can't, like I said, I can't thoroughly explain, even though we just read it, what this looks like. I guess we're going to have to see it when we see it. Okay. Praise the Most High. All right, so let's, and I can't begin to tell you the meaning. Like, okay, a cow or a calf, a man, a lion, and an eagle. Lion, tribe of Judah. Calf is the sacrifice for sin, Messiah. Eagle, he brings us on eagle's wings. I'm just telling you from what I've read. I don't know. And of course, man, that's we see the redeemed. That's the object of redemption, man. It's deep, y'all. You know, so I'm not going to guess. I don't like to guess at anything. I'm just telling you what I've seen and what you just read too. So is what it is. All right. One day we'll all know. Right now, it is what it is. Okay. Praise the Most High. All right. And please don't give me any quotation from any of these. I don't want to hear what the book of Enoch has to say about it. I don't care what the book of Jasher. I don't care what the Apocrypha. I don't want to hear it. I'm only reading one book. What's revealed belongs to us. What's not belongs to y'all. That's the way I see it. That's the way it tell me, or I'll go with. All right. Keep this simple, y'all. Don't make it complicated, please. All right. So let's go back to Revelation chapter 4. So you're seeing the same 4 beasts in Revelation chapter 4. So let's go back. Revelation chapter 4, beginning at verse 6. I'm going to read from verse 6 down to verse 8. Revelation chapter 4, from 6 to 8. And before the throne there was a sea of glass, like unto crystal. And in the midst of the throne and round about the throne were 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. And the first beast was like we're going to see the same thing. The first beast was like a lion. The second beast like a calf. The third beast had the face of a man. And the 4th beast like a flying eagle. So there you go. 4 faces. Calf, was eagle, lion, and man. Okay. Verse 8. And the 4 beasts had each of them 6 wings, just like Ezekiel saw. 2 covered their bodies, 2 were raised over their head, and 2 they flew with. Okay. The first beast and the four beasts had each of them 6 wings about them, and they were full of eyes within, and they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, holy, holy. And the word says, Lord God Almighty, but that really is Al Shaddai, Yahweh Al Shaddai, which was and is to come. You see, he was, he is, and he is to come. He's in all 3 dimensions. He's in the past, he's in the present, and he's in the future. He is not bound by time and space. Okay? And they cry constantly, holy, holy, holy. You know, when I first read that, I was like, how they must be bored, right? I mean, just sitting there crying, holy, holy, holy all day. I mean, don't they get to go out? Don't they get to, say anything, see anything, talk to anybody, do anything, just sit there, cry, holy, holy, holy all day? But then the Most High showed me some things. In Psalm 16, watch this. Psalm 16. Psalm 16, verse 11. Psalm 16, verse 11. Notice what it says in Psalm 16, verse 11. Thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore. Why would that be related to what we're talking about here in Revelation 4? In his presence, there's the spirit of joy. And it's the fullness of joy. And it's pleasurable to be in his presence. So that you and I will be constantly on a high in the spirit, just being in his presence. You will never get tired of it. He'll have to tell you, like he told Moses. Moses was in his presence, and he said to Moses, go back down and talk to these people because they're doing some craziness down there. Moses, when he came down, the Bible said he was 40 days and 40 nights. He didn't eat or drink. It wasn't like he needed discipline to do that. He was in the presence of the Father. He didn't recognize time. Whereas on the earth, when at the bottom of the mountain, they were like, we don't know what became of Moses. It's been 40 days. Where's he? I don't know what happened to him. He didn't recognize how much time had went by because he was in the presence of eternal joy and fullness of pleasure and did not recognize that he didn't eat or drink for 40 days or 40 nights. And then he came down and the Bible said his face was lit up. And he didn't even recognize that because there's no mirror. He didn't know his face was lit up. Everybody was scared to see him. So that he had to put a veil over his face. So that these beings in the presence of the Father, they'd never get tired. They would have to be told, leave his presence, because they would never leave. That's why they continually cry, holy, holy, holy. And they bow down, they come back up. Oh, holy, because it's a new high. You know, when you're hooked on drugs or alcohol, what I've been told, fortunately for me, I've never been in there before, and I've been told when I used to work in drug clinics, is that you're always chasing that first high. Okay? You're always chasing that first high. That when somebody gets high on heroin or crack, the first time is so mind-blowing that the rest of the years they're hooked on it. They're trying to get that first experience, and they never could. With the Father's presence, you get a high that every time you come back to it, you bow and come back. It's a new high, a new experience, and you never want to leave. That's why they can stay in his presence 24/7 and say, holy, holy, holy. And if they have to leave, he has to tell them, like he told Moses, go here. Because they don't want to. And remember what Gabriel told Zechariah? Zechariah, after Gabriel said, your wife Elizabeth is going to have a baby, a son in her old age. And you're going to call him Yochanan. And he's going to be the forerunner in the spirit and power of Elijah. And then Zechariah said, how should I know that this is true? What sign you going to show me that this is true? You remember what Gabriel said? He said, I am Gabriel that stand in the presence of Yah. Like, bro, you don't know who I am? I came from his presence to tell you this. That's what he said. And I've been sent with these glad tidings to you. He said, because of that, you're not going to be able to talk until the day it happens. Because you didn't believe my words. I left the presence of the greatest high ever to come tell you this. You going to give me doubt? Nah. See, I'm Gabriel. I stand in the presence of Yah. See, and so there's a highness, there's a pleasure, there's a grace and power that we can't comprehend until we experience it. Praise the Most High. And so that's why they continually are telling him, holy, 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 Al Shaddai. Okay. Now, the Revelation chapter, and this is just the prelude. This is just the prelude to the four seals, the seven seals. This is just the prelude to the seven seals, what we're dealing with here. So the Most High, through Messiah, is taking us into the most holy place to behold what's happening there, what the situation is there. Okay, so Revelation chapter 4, verse 9. Notice what it says here. And when those beasts give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever. Verse 10. The 24 elders fall down before him that sat on the throne and worship him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before his throne, saying, Thou art worthy, O Yahweh, to receive glory and honor and power. For thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created. Now, I want you to also notice when we read Ezekiel chapter 1 and when we saw Daniel chapter 7, you did not see the 24 elders. You saw the same thing John saw, but you did not see the 24 elders. It wasn't until Revelation that the Spirit revealed the 24 elders to us. Why? Because it wasn't until after Messiah became high priest that the 24 elders were brought there for this work. As you're going to see, they're working with high priests doing priestly ministry, representing our prayers. So he has redeemed men and women. Well, not women, but men. I'm sorry. Let me not confuse you. There's no women there. This is men. He has redeemed men around his throne as priests with incense that represents our prayers. And it's obviously a very overwhelming sight and experience for even them. Because when they hear the four beasts cry holy, they take the crowns off their head and they cast them to the foot of the throne. They say, you are worthy. Say, you are worthy to receive honor and glory and power. You are worthy. And he is worthy. You see how powerful the book of Revelation is. You see how serious it is, how prophetic it is. And we're only in chapter 5. We're only in chapter 5. And it's showing us some tremendous things. And there's more to be seen. Like I said, I've read through this book. It's more than the 19 times I've read through the Bible. I've read the book of Revelation, more than that. But I said that to say this. I feel like I just get a glimpse of what them four elders and the four beasts and the 24 elders get, because every time I read it, I'm blown away. Every time I study it, I'm blown away. Every single time. And that's why Whatever Bible study we do, if we do Revelation or we do Deuteronomy or Isaiah or Ezekiel or Zechariah, you will always find me going back to Revelation. It's mind-blowing, okay? Not only gives you clarification, but it's mind-blowing. And so I always come back to it. And that's why you see me always coming back and referencing it. It's very, it's a light to guide us in these last days. Really is. Okay. And it bothers me when I see people guess about what they think it's saying instead of really seeking the Father to understand what it's saying. Because when you really understand it, poof, man. And things I don't know, like I said, we just read about the four beasts, and I can't tell you I have a thorough understanding of them, but they still blow me away. You know, looking at them and reading about them. It's a powerful thing, man. Okay. So you see them in Ezekiel, you see them in Revelation, and you see the Father and the throne in Ezekiel, Revelation, and Daniel. Also, it's in Isaiah as well. It's in Isaiah as well. When he got a glimpse of the Father, he said, "Woe is me, for I am undone." He said, "I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King." He saw the same throne that Ezekiel saw, the same one described here that Yochanan saw, the one we're going to be standing in front of pretty soon, if we're faithful, on the sea of glass. Praise the Most High. Okay, so here is the prelude to the book of life. Okay, the book of life is the prelude to what we're going to study in chapter 5 of the book of life. And I just want to begin chapter 5 for the sake of what we're going to continue to study by the grace of the Most High next Friday evening. But I want to begin because we did all of that background in Daniel 7 to show the book, right? So here it is again, and in Daniel 12 also. And in Ezekiel, remember, we also studied Exodus chapter 32 and saw it as well. So here in Revelation chapter 5, beginning at verse 1, I'm going to start Revelation 5. I'm going to read from verse 1 down to verse 5. Revelation chapter 5, 1 through 5. "And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals." So the Ancient of Days that we just saw in Daniel and here, he's on the throne. He has a book in his hand. Now in the Bible, a book is a scroll. So he has the scroll in his hands, and it has 7 seals on it. And John sees it. Okay. It's written both inside and out with 7 seals sealing it. Okay. Verse 2. "And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof?" So a question is asked. Who's worthy to open this book that the Father has in his hand? Who's worthy to take this book and open its seals? Apparently, not anybody could just do that, right? Verse 3. "And no man in heaven, not in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon." So there was no human being that was worthy to open this book. No human being found that was able to do it. So the book of life would be sealed and never opened until somebody was found that was worthy to open it so that this kingdom would be established. Now we know who that's going to be, right? So let's look at verse 4. "And I wept much because no man was found worthy to open and to read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders said unto me, Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof." So now the Lion of the tribe of Judah. You see why we have to understand who the true Hebrews are and why we need to understand what the position of the true Israelite people and nation is in the Bible, that we must understand that because of how the Most High describes his son and the kingdom. The Lion of the tribe of Judah is not white Jesus. The Lion of the tribe of Judah is not Christianity. The Lion of the tribe of Judah is not Islam. The Lion of the tribe of Judah is not Judaism. The Lion of the tribe of Judah is for the true bloodline of Abraham, from the Semites that look like ancient Egyptians who were placed in slavery and taken by ships through Africa. That's the people of the Lion of the tribe of Judah, whose skin is like burned brass and has hair like wool. That's the people of the Lion of the tribe of Judah, which is why we need to understand who that is and who he represents. Okay? So now it says, he hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the seals thereof. Now remember, we read Luke chapter 1, where Gabriel told Miriam, the son you're going to have is going to rule over the house of Jacob forever. Remember that? We read that, Luke chapter 1. This son, Yahushua, you're going to have, he's going to rule over the house of Jacob forever. Why? He prevailed. What did he prevail over? He already told us. He said, I'm the first and the last. I am he that liveth and was dead. Behold, and I have the keys of hell and of death. And he says, I am alive forevermore. That's him. And that's why. He's the Lion of the tribe of Judah that was alive and was dead and was brought back to life. He's the Lion of the tribe of Judah that has the keys of hell and of death. He's the Lion of the tribe of Judah who's going to rule the house of Jacob forever. And his kingdom, Daniel said, will have no end. Indeed, he's our cousin. He's our brother and our cousin by blood. And through blood, he becomes the Messiah of the Gentiles. By blood, he's ours. Through his blood, he becomes with them too. And that's why Romans chapter 2 says it like this. Notice what Romans chapter 2 says. Romans chapter 2. No, I'm sorry. Romans chapter 3. Romans chapter 3. We're going to start at verse 28. Romans chapter 3, verse 28. But we're really looking at verse 30. But I want to show you, I'm going to read from 28 to 31 for context. Okay, for the sake of context, I'm going to read 28 to 31, but it's verse 30 that we're really looking at. Notice what it says. Therefore, we conclude that a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law. Is he the Most High of the Jews only? Is he not also of the Gentiles? Yes, of the Gentiles also. Watch this. Seeing it is one Most High, which shall justify the circumcision by faith, and the uncircumcision through faith. So he justifies the Hebrews by faith. He justifies the Gentiles through faith. Do we then make void the law through faith? Yah forbid. Yea, we establish the law. So we are the bloodline. We who are of the bloodline of the Hebrew Messiah, the line of the tribe of Judah, receive him by faith. He's our cousin. He's our brother. But the Gentiles receive him through that blood, through faith. They're grafted into the olive tree of the scattered nation. Okay? Through faith. And they receive through faith what we receive, being the natural branches of the line of the tribe of Judah. So it says in Revelation chapter 5, verse 5, one of the elders said unto me, weep not, behold, the line of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the seven seals thereof. He hath prevailed. Behold, he said, I am he that liveth and was dead. And behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And have the keys of hell and of death. So that's why he is worthy to come up to the Father and receive that book, which we saw in the book of Daniel. It said the Father gave him a kingdom. That's the book. The Father gave him a kingdom that will not be left to other people, but it will be established forever. Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar, even forever and ever. Won't be left to anybody else. The line of the tribe of Judah will rule over the house of Jacob forever. And we just read, talking about having the keys and having the door open and nobody can shut it. His father's government going to be on his shoulder. Okay? Praise the Most High. That is why all the governments we're seeing now are temporary. Every government on the earth right now is temporary, soon to be replaced by the eternal kingdom of Mashiach Yahushua forever. That is why we're seeing such craziness on the planet right now. Satan knows everything I just told you, and he is going crazy right now. Madness, to destroy whatever he can that's not obedient to him, solidify his own kingdom, and to try to be prepared to fight when Messiah does come, which he's destined to be destroyed. Okay? Praise the Most High. So we started chapter 5. We set everything up so that you understand that that book is the book of life of the kingdom. And then the seven seals are the judgment on each time period. Okay? And the judgment and of his people from each time period, beginning in the first century. Right? So we're going to start going through that as we go through this chapter 5 and start the seven seals. And again, they go with the seven churches, but this is going to be another deep insight into that. Okay? So praise the Most High. All right. Thank you for hanging out with us today, coming back after all of the technical difficulties we had. Praise the Most High. And I pray the Most High will bless you and keep you, that he will cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you, that he will lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom.